Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna here today for the project reveal of What's New, my series with Sara Scraps. So this is my finished project. It is a 2-page layout and I went with Set Sail. So you'll see as this evolves that it kind of ends up being a 2-page layout that is a companion page that I then notice and then evolve it into a 2-page layout. So I have this large photo of my husband, and that is actually printed on photo paper. So it is a slightly different white than the white cardstock, plain white cardstock that I will use for the other page. So I'm going to work on this page first. You can see, I am using Set Sail. It is very much a nautically themed collection. And if you look at that picture, there are cacti in there. So we are in Arizona. There is nothing to do with the sea, the ocean, or anything nautical where we are. However, I'm using this for a travel layout. So that in itself presented a challenge. But I loved the colors, and the colors went really well with my pictures, and so I just decided to go with it because you all said you wanted to see me use Set Sail, so here I am using Set Sail. I even took up the challenge of a 2-page layout, and I have created a 2-page layout. So I have this die. It is basically a way of getting lots of little things tucked in. The original idea as I set out to use this die, it's a Tim Holtz die, was that I wanted to put ephemera from our trip in there, but I don't really have any ephemera from this. I think I might have the tickets to get into the museum, but yeah, I can't find them right now. Since we've come back from this trip, and I think it's been 3 weeks now, we've had Easter and we've had Nicholas home, and so just my house it looks like a bomb's gone off, and so I'm just going to go with it. And I realized as I was putting this together and editing this that I actually have not journaled on this layout either. So maybe I'll find the things, and some of the things will go in here. So I have pretty much everything from the collection except for the washi. And actually, if you just reference the actual video where I did my unboxing of what it was and where I presented the opportunity for you to choose what I was going to use, you'll know what I have. So essentially, I don't have the washi, but I have everything else. This particular pack of ephemera is very, very nautically themed. So I'm not going to be able to choose a lot from here. A lot of what I end up going with are the labels and the envelopes or slidey bits, and that pretty much is about the extent of what I am able to use here. So I have pre-edited, cut, printed my photos. I have 2x2 squares because they match these 2x2 squares in this pattern paper here. And then I have 2x3.5 rectangles. And you'll see that what I end up putting here are very limited number of photos compared to what I end up with at the end. And that's the great thing about scrapbooking, is you can always change your mind. And so I want some of these squares, partly because I want the color palette to tie in this right-hand side of the page to the left-hand side of the page. So let's talk about 2-page construction here. So you can see I have a large photo on the left-hand side, and you can see I have lots of little photos on the right-hand side. Those are your not uniting factors. But if I use the same color palette on the left-hand side as the right-hand side, then I have uniting color factors. So using the same collection for the most part allows you to do that. I also, this is just my preference. It's not always what happens, but I also like something to be crossing the middle of the spread. So something that is going to be on the left page that I will cut that will also be on the right hand side of the page. Or if I have a piece of pattern paper, I want it to go across, maybe not the whole 224 inches or 212 inches, which equals 24, but it will unite the middle of the layout so that I have something that ties one to the other. And you'll see as I get to the end of what I thought was going to be my finished process, how I don't have that uniting factor there. So I want to mix up the colors, and there's different depths here. So you can see I've got black and I've got the navy blue, and those are very dark contrast colors. And then I've got the pastel, which is a light contrast color. And then I've got that yellow, which is sort of a bright contrast color. So I want to try and distribute that as evenly across the page as I can. Now I know I want to put the title in that little space in there, and I know that these thickers that come with the collection are the perfect height for it, but I want something to ground them because I know this is a super long title. It is a very non-original title. It is Where We Were, the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum. And I recommend, if you are ever in Tucson, aka Tucson, Arizona, I highly recommend you go to this museum. It was absolutely fantastic. And if you get a chance, so I believe it is spring and fall is when they do the raptor bird flight thing. That is not quite its name, raptor flight, I think is what it was called. I highly recommend that too. Get there early, get yourself a good spot. But you can see those soaring birds there. So there was an owl, a falcon of some sort, and other birds whose names I don't remember off the top of my head, and if I journaled, I probably would remember, but it was just absolutely amazing. You literally have these birds of prey that are like buzzing over your head, and those of you who know me know I am not a bird person. I do not like birds, not in my personal space, but this was absolutely amazing. That alone made the trip to the museum absolutely fantastic, and just even the whole place was absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to skip through the putting down of all of the letters because it's a long, tedious process, but I use a ruler so that I can line them all up and then stick them down. So you can see how I've got little white borders, and interspersed between the photos, I have some of the labels. You can see that little pink slide that will, I might put another photo in there, but I kind of like the white spaces. And so I haven't quite determined where the journaling is going to go yet. And that's part of why that is not there. So I know with that blue strip, if I were trying to tie the two pages together, I could have pulled that all the way across, but it literally would have ended in that adventure thing because I couldn't take it into the photo. And so that was not going to be the solution for me for uniting these two pages. So I'm trying to get somewhat even spaces between each of the rows. If I really cared, I would have pulled out my long ruler to get this done, probably even the T-square, but it didn't need to be exact. It just needed to be approximate, and because it would have been very obvious with all of the squares. Well, they're not all squares, but with the boxiness of all of it, it's very geometric, right? It's very right angle. So if I had not lined them up straight, you really would have known. But I've gotten pretty good at doing eyeballing it for the most part. That little pink envelope thing did throw me off a little bit because it is not 2 inches tall, but I liked that one unique feature kind of stood out a little bit. So there is one thing that is not from this collection on the page, well, I should say on this right-hand page for now, and that is that right there, the pinky salmony colored paper that I'm using. That is actually from my stash. Everything in this collection is pretty muted, other than the navy blue, and I really needed a little bit more of that pinky peach salmon color in the collection, and so I just supplemented it with something from my stash. That's actually Chamel in my stash. That's come from my stash there, but it's the perfect complement to the soft peachy color that is in the collection there. So here we are trying to get a variety of pictures that are either people or close-ups or animals, and then a variety of supplemental pieces. Those would be the labels and what have you, or the squares, the pattern paper squares. So this I had stuck down and I decided would be really cool in the little pocket holder, let's call that for lack of a better word. So I had to pull the adhesive off of that. So I'm going to finish the title off now, and I'm not very good at spelling backwards, but I wanted it flush with the right hand side, so I had to go backwards, and so you can see I've spelled the words. Again, I will save you the agony of watching me do that. So in the meantime, I wanted to get a few more elements in here, and you can see those elements that I have pulled. So on the top left hand side, I have the perfection and the banner along with the circle. Here, that little, it says, "This is the life." That is from Chic Tags. And if you saw a video that I posted of the cats, I think when they were kittens, this came out with that particular set of goodies that I pulled as a stash bashing kit, and that was sitting on my desk. But it was the perfect pink color, especially knowing that I didn't have any pink on that left hand side just yet. And then the other thing that I am going to do off camera is there is a pink sort of ginghamy, seersuckery piece of pattern paper that I will actually put on the right hand side of the photo. And I will also put some of they're nautical banners. Actually, they're just kind of plain banners, but we'll go with nautical banners that are the same colors that are on the right hand side of the page. So I put those going so that they're more rectangular than going across horizontal rather than going down. You'll see what I mean. And I'm going to put those on the right hand side. Again, is more of a way of trying to unite things. So here I used my circle punches to cut that into a circle, and you could see I used my little sizer, my homemade sizer, to see what size I needed to use. And then I'm going to pop this perfection up, and that is gold foiled. So I have the gold foiled compass that is by the Adventure journal card, that pocket card that needs to be journaled in, as well as the gold foil that says perfection. And so I needed to have something on the other page, and that's where you can see the little tabs that I'll use right there. Yep, in the center of the page there's 3 of them. There we go. I'm going to pull them apart. So that ends up being the third piece that ends up so that I've got kind of this visual triangle of gold there. And let's see. So that is, you can see how I'm trying to create balance by having the visual triangle, by having things that try and spread across to the page there. So that bottom circle has something to do with something nautical, so I just used the high and a circle punch to cut that out and cover that. And then that other square, it says, "Life is good at the beach." We are not at the beach. Yes, we are at sand, but we are not at the beach. So I need to cover that up, and I'm not actually in love with the way that that is covered up, but it is what it is, and it's covered up, and I'm no longer at the beach or the ocean or whatever it says. I think it says beach. I can't see it on my video screen here. So I'm going to struggle a little while to cover that up. And then I am going to add a few of these enamel dots just for a little bit of texture. I've got these very glaring circles. They're not glaring, but I've got these very obvious circles. And so I want to have some smaller circles to just pull that in and pull that together. I also I have no texture on here really other than the elements that I've raised on foam, and so I like that this provides a little bit of texture to the page there. So I'm done. See, thumbs up, but there's this ton of white space that just doesn't work. So I have printed more photos. I have printed a few more square photos, and then I have printed a few more of the rectangular ones. And because I have that one bannered piece, I'm going to banner this photo because I have plenty of room on that edge, and that is going to span both pages. So remember earlier I referenced what makes this 2 companion pages versus a 2-page layout. So to me, what makes this a little bit more united is the fact that I'm now going to pull these photos across both pages. Those are the only things that are being pulled across both pages, but I also, you can see now those the banners that I was talking about on the left-hand side, they're now facing into that right-hand page, which I also think kind of pulls that together. I'm not sure, but I think I'm going to actually journal in the big white hand space, that white space on the right-hand side of the left page. And I think that might tie it together a little bit more. I'm not sure, but I also, if I were to journal in the adventure pocket card, and in those two labels that I have, that might also create a visual triangle that will tie it together as well. So hoping that that will come together a little bit better there. So again, this is a series. Sara and I are going to once a month, the second Tuesday of every month, show you a stash item. And then the fourth Tuesday of every month, we will show you the completed project that we created with that new shopping that we've done. So this is my completed project. I hope you have enjoyed this process video. Thank you for challenging me to do something a little bit out of my comfort zone. If you have any questions about my design process or the product itself, please don't hesitate to leave that in the box down below. Visit Sara's channel and enjoy the close-ups. Thanks for stopping in today. Come back again soon. Take care.